Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Legal Weekly Wine, where the H is optional and we discuss the week's hottest legal topics. And these are hot. We have the final decisions of the Supreme Court term in 2025. And today we're going to be talking about one of the cases dropped on June 27th of 2025. This is Mahmoud versus Taylor, which is basically being known as the LGBTQ plus case. And we're going to talk in detail about some of the facts, what the actual holdings were, how limited they are, and what the effects could be of the ruling of the Supreme Court. So I'm Vile Tehrani. I'm a civil litigator in Maryland, D.C., and Virginia. I did about 10 years in criminal law, and the next 10 years I've been focusing on civil law. And goodness, we have our own office in Maryland at Tehrani Law LLC, because you never need a lawyer till you do. And I am joined by my co-host, Dean John Vile, Dr. John Vile, and he is the Dean of the Honors College at Middle Tennessee State University. He's also my father, and he's an expert in constitutional law, the Constitution, and the amending process. Welcome back again.
Good to be here.
I'm glad to have you. This one, we may have some different opinions on this one. I'm going to agree with you on some, but I'm interested to see where we diverge on this particular case. So what are you drinking to get us through?
I'm still with the water.
I know. I'm still with the Izzy's.
Or H2O, as we're now calling it, right?
That's right. With
Sounds
our prior.
so much more sophisticated, you know.
It really does. It makes you sound more proper, more academic.
And is it white? What do I call it? If it were wine, what would the color be?
Oh, yes, the white wine.
Yes.
White wine.
White H2O, yes. Okay.
So I am doing some Izzy again, the sparkling apple, which is my favorite, which does taste like an alcoholic cider or one of the sparkling ciders that you have on New Year's Eve. Hopefully next broadcast we'll actually get back at least to me drinking some wine and letting you know which ones taste the best and which don't, at least to my palate. So cheers, Dr. Vile, and let's get on to Mahmoud versus Taylor. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So we have to say at the very beginning that this case arises out of Montgomery County, Maryland, right, which is where I live.
And which, by the way, is one of the largest school districts in the country.
Exactly.
So it's a very consequential decision. I mean, even if it only applied to that one area, and of course it applies to the whole country, but it would be consequential.
Right. And it is. It is. It's an extremely large area. Again, that's where I live. My son actually attends one of the high schools here. He's been in all of the Montgomery County schools from pre-K to kindergarten to all the way through elementary and now high school. So we've been involved with MCPS, which is the Montgomery County Public School System. We know a lot about how it works and what the curriculum is and how it's been applied. We actually had some of our own issues a couple of years ago during COVID with some of the curriculum that was being taught and whether we could opt out of it as well as to, should our son be hearing that or not. So we're somewhat familiar with these issues and these controversies, but this particular one is about the curriculum that has been used in Montgomery County, in our county, with regard to books specifically that are supporting and encouraging of the LGBTQ community. Is that right?
It is, and it's one limitation in the case, and it has implications for others, but this deals with kids from kindergarten, I believe, to like fourth grade. So we're talking, 5 to 11-year-olds or somewhere along in that category. And essentially, in Montgomery County, as I understand, as it's described in the court decision, is one of the most religiously and racially diverse in the country.
It is.
You have Catholic plaintiffs, Muslims, various others.
We have one of our cities within the county, Gaithersburg, Maryland, or was it Germantown? Either Gaithersburg or Germantown, Maryland, was declared within the last couple of years the most diverse city in the nation.
Yeah. And so,
with religion and racial background, ethnicities, with all of this, the melting pot and we've been so proud of it, that this is the diverse community that we have.
yeah. And I mean, basically, what happens is the school the school decides that, for, basically, I think for a reason, they look at the curriculum and they say, there's not, a lot of families now, a lot of children are growing up in gay families, now have gay marriage. A lot of kids, maybe more kids than usual, are questioning sexual identity and whatever. So we ought to
Right.
have some books that reflect this. And the
So that
books that are
it's more an
used,
issue that has been, we need inclusion.
right? That's how the school district has phrased it. And in fairness to the parents, as I understand it, the parents are not objecting. I mean, there's several books here, basically, that celebrate gay marriage, gay relationships, and some of the books suggest that sexual identity is largely a matter of personal choice. They sort of undermine the biological issue. You can be a boy but feel like a girl, and if you want to be a girl, then you're a girl, or vice versa.
Right.
And that's certainly a perspective that some people have, but particularly, many religious people believe that sexuality is a gift from God. And while I think most religious people would be tolerant and would understand somebody with questions of sexual identity, do not want their children taught that sex is just, it's a matter of difference between vanilla and chocolate. It's,
Right. And
I
the
think it is a more fundamental identity.
And I think in this particular case, the specific issue is the religion part. Is we
Right.
want to practice our religion, whichever one it is. Like you said, there were multiple parties
Yes.
that weren't all the same religion.
Right. Not
Is
all Christian religions either. I mean,
exactly. We've got Muslims in there. So
yeah.
we have these parties that are saying, based on my religion, my freedom to practice my religion, and the Constitution's First Amendment that says you can't establish a religion.
Well,
There's
it's actually the focus is actually more on free exercise.
right,
That parents have the right, which has been recognized since Pierce versus Society of Sisters early in the 20th century, that parents have the right to choose parochial schools for their children. And they have, if they stay in the public school systems, and parochial schools are often not cheap. So, they're required, as the Jehovah's Witnesses were, they're required for their children to attend school. They can be fined or punished if they don't. And they're just saying, when they're going to school, we should be told when these particular books are being taught, read in class, um, and we should be able to withdraw our children from that instruction.
right.
Now,
Based on, and again, I'm gonna stop you
right,
real quick. Based
free
on
exercise.
their idea that it is a religious issue,
Right,
that their religion says there are two genders. We
right.
do not want our children taught otherwise based on our religious beliefs.
Right. That's right. In other words, we have the free exercise, and again, it's a combination of free exercise rights and parental rights. Parents should have some control over the religious teachings that their children are exposed to. Now, the problem, of course, this is a 6-3 decision, splits along traditional
Conservative.
conservative, liberal lines. And the problem, of course, that the dissenters point out is, which the court doesn't answer, by the way, is how far are you going to take this?
Right.
So, my parents didn't believe in evolution. Uh, Evolution was taught, at least as a theory. Would you want to pull, I'm glad that I know what the theory is.
Right.
You know, um, um,
I, I'm
but
I'm
there,
much more open of learning different views. I
right.
like the atmosphere in education
Yes.
of let's present all the different views, and then you
And
can
particularly
choose.
particularly as you get into high school and
Yes.
college, I think that's part of the issue here. You're telling a 4-year-old girl that she has the right to declare herself a boy or vice versa. And, if that's what a parent believes and that's what they want to teach their children, they have every right to do it. But if you have strong opinions against that, and here's the problem: if you insist, see, the school district sort of cheated the parents. The
Mm,
school district originally said, "We'll let you exempt your students,"
right.
and then they said, "Well, we're not going to tell you when we're going to read these books to your kids and when we're going to explain them, and we're not going to let you withdraw your kids."
Right.
And so and then they said, and it would be too administratively difficult to pull kids out. Well, it would be because of a decision that the school itself made, that we're not going to inform the students.
Right.
And again, the parents, as I understand it, they're not objecting to having these books in the classroom.
Right.
I don't even think they're objecting to other students, if they believe this, if their parents accept it, to exposing their children to it.
Agreed.
But particularly when you're dealing I just believe this is a case of sort of ideology run amok.
Mm,
Whether whether you're for this or I'm sensitive, I hope, to LGBTQ rights,
of course.
but I don't want it. I don't want that indoctrinated, and I think these parents don't either. And I think the court ultimately makes the right decision. Now, the
And
devil will
what
be.
is the specific decision?
Well, the decision is that, at least in this case, they have the right. They should be informed when these books are going to be read and explained. And if they want to withdraw their children from it, they should be able to do it.
Okay.
Now, the devil is going to come in. Well, what if the school says, as I believe, a girl can be a lawyer? Well, I'm sure there's some religious, or a woman can be a lawyer. Some religions would say, no, woman's place is in the home and only the home.
Right.
So, I don't know how far the door has been open.
Yeah.
How, you don't, or you, and you're not going to be able to explain to parents all the time everything that's going to come up in a classroom. But I think part of it is when you look at the instructional guides that go with these materials, it's not just a matter of we respect everybody's opinion. It's, well, you have the right to change your gender if you want to, and that's that. Well, not every parent believes that.
Right.
And what I was about to say is, in the 19th century, we had something similar. We proclaimed that we had freedom of religion and that we didn't have an establishment. But in fact, we had an informal Protestant establishment.
Mm,
So if you went to schools, public schools, your children were going to be read to by the King James Bible
right.
that did not have the commentary that Catholics thought needed to go with interpretation of the scripture. So what happened? Parents withdrew their kids from school and created parochial schools.
Mm,
And that's good and whatever, but it means when it comes to promoting national unity, you actually promote disunity, because
right.
instead of everybody getting sort of a common, you know, Americanism curriculum, you have, well, this is our form and this is your form. So I think the court made the right decision in this case, because it's
Yeah.
so obvious to me that the school district is sort of teaching more an ideology than anything. But when it comes to, well, does that mean you have to exempt students from courses, evolution or from
Right.
other teachings? You're, almost, particularly given the variety that you have in Montgomery County, almost anything you say might be contested by somebody's religion. So,
Absolutely. So many different religious ideologies here, as like you're saying, especially in Montgomery County, that is there something that would go to the heart of one of these religions that is being taught that's not related to LGBTQ material and beliefs that would then trigger? And I think the ultimate decision says, well, if it's a religious issue, then yes, it triggers it. But how will we all know? And I think that's what you're saying is the devil's in the details, is how do we know which ones to alert parents about, to tell them this is our curriculum, this is what we will be doing. You have the opportunity to opt out rather than just kind of falling into it, getting caught by surprise.
and it's going to put teachers on pins and needles, although
Yes.
I suspect that teachers told I suspect that some of the teachers were objecting to these guides themselves,
Right. And one of,
particularly when it comes to a kindergartner.
yes,
Your doctor guessed at what your sex was when you were born based on body parts. Well, I'd consider that a little bit more than a guess,
right.
with acknowledgement that sexual identity is obviously far more complicated than that.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the issues is part of it is their age, is
Right.
how young they are. And I'm wondering in the future if this will have an effect on two different things. One is, will it then automatically start creating these requirements for notice and requirements for declaring the curriculum, explaining that this is going to be the day, the time, the actual curriculum into the middle schools, into the high
Right.
schools, that's going to be one of the effects with schools grappling with the age of, okay, well, once they reach teenage years, what, right? Is it 13? Is
Right.
it high school?
And,
That now we can introduce this
and
without having to give notice.
Right. And one thing that I failed to mention, Alito, of course, makes the majority opinion here, and I believe I can't remember if it's Kagan or Sotomayor who does the dissent, but they do point out that the school system wasn't consistent.
Mhm.
Yeah, Sotomayor does the dissenting opinion in that it did exempt children from sex education classes if their parents objected,
Exactly.
and so I think matters of sexuality probably are a bit more controversial, maybe than some others when
Yes.
it comes to religion. And so it may be that will ultimately be the line, that there's something that deals with that intimate relationship might be more more likely to trigger, strict scrutiny than other matters might.
Absolutely. And the second issue I see resulting from this case is the question of, do these schools even try to enter this into the curriculum, or do they just say
Right.
this is too complicated, we don't want to get into it, we don't want to provide notice, it's too
Right.
hassle, too much hassle to do this, so we just won't even provide these books, these materials, these options to any of our school children? Because like you said earlier, this wasn't a request by the parents to ban the books.
No, that's right.
It wasn't a request by the parents to prevent the teaching of this material. It was only to have the decision to opt their children out of it. But yes, thank you. Is
I
that
want to
the?
show you this because
Mhm.
one of the fascinating things about the case is that both sides have pages of illustrations from the book. One saying, "See, this is indoctrinating people into a certain viewpoint," and the other saying, "No, it's just a way of being inclusive." And
Right.
the timing of this decision, if you think about it, we have a president who's pushed back more strongly against diversity, equity, and inclusion than
Yes.
any recent president. And so this sort of fits along with, people sort of see this as all of one bundle, that they're trying to force sort of an ideology on people, and they're pushing back a bit.
Right. It's the idea of diversity, right?
Right.
Equity and
Well,
inclusion
this
of
I
this
think takes it
group.
beyond diversity, frankly, but it's consistent that you'd have pushback on both fronts at the same time.
Absolutely. All right, so that is our take and our description and explanation of the case of Mahmoud versus Taylor, which is the idea that parents can opt their children out of curriculum that is religious based, or there's a religious objection to, and in this particular case, it was the LGBTQ material, and for children who are roughly the age of 4 to 11, so the younger minors, so to speak. So we're going to see what comes out of this decision, what other cases are brought, whether it's an age issue, whether it's a sexuality issue, whether it's even do we do curriculum? So will we just be having across the nation the idea in schools, if it's not worth even dealing with this, we're just going to take it out of the curriculum completely? And will that even reach the college level? Because even the colleges are dealing with that, with Trump's war on the colleges of, because you have these DEI policies, because you include them, we're going to cut off funding. So like you said, Dr.
May I
Vile.
say a word
Mhm.
here on behalf of our president at the
Please.
University of Virginia,
Yes.
who basically had to step down because he is accused without proof of not following governmental mandates on DEI. It's shameful. The
Yes.
United States has one of the is the envy of the world in having a blend. We have a few national institutions, your military institutes,
Right.
but most institutions in the United States are either state or they're private. And we've never had a president, possibly since now, and this wasn't a president, if you go back to the McCarthy era,
Mm.
you had all kinds of investigation as to whether there was a communist teaching on campus or there was a socialist here. McCarthy notoriously, after asserting there were thousands of them, said even, if there's even one communist on the campus, that's a cause for alarm.
Right.
But this is serious, and I would particularly urge Republicans who I hope have joined me in being a strong supporter of federalism, of
Yes.
giving states choices and of giving individuals a choice to have a curriculum at the college level that's to appeal to students on the basis that this is what we stand for. University of Virginia was founded by Mr. Thomas Jefferson, whom we're going to celebrate next year. And the thought that a president of the United States basically indirectly is going to come in and say, well, I don't like your president because when it was legal, he supported DEI,
Right.
is just anathema. And I just hope, these institutions, Harvard and Columbia
Yes.
and UVA and others, they need to take a stand here. And I understand how difficult it is. And I really pray, I think the president did the right thing. The president of the university, Ryan, decided, well, he didn't want the university funds to be cut off because people didn't like him.
Right.
But this is government overreach. This is the kind of thing that we saw in Nazi Germany. It's the kind of
Correct.
thing that we saw in the Soviet Union when they used to, tell you to cut out pages of the encyclopedia and we'll take the picture of Trotsky out here.
Right.
This kind of ideology is dangerous to, if we want to celebrate, let's hope we have something to celebrate next year when we celebrate the 250th of the Declaration of Independence. We threw off a monarch.
Yes.
And we need to have backbone enough to stand up for what we believe today.
I agree. Well said. I don't know that I can say anything to follow that, but completely agreed. And thank you for including that. So we do need to think about and discuss and realize what is and isn't happening. Hold fast to those tenets of our freedoms, of our freedoms to exercise speech, our right to speech, our right to thought and individual decisions,
And
academic freedom.
that's right. Non-uniform. I mean, we have a great system not because it's, France. They used to say in France, you knew at any time of day exactly what everybody in France was studying.
Mm.
They had a single nationwide curriculum. And we've always prided ourselves that we give states and localities and private schools the right to diverge from that. And
Exactly.
that diversity has been our strength, not our weakness.
Agreed. All right. So on that, we're going to stop for today, and we will continue with our breakdown of the Supreme Court decisions that dropped for this term. In the meantime, check out www.thelawunscripted.com. That's our sister company that's actually hosting the Legal Weekly Wine, where we discuss the basic tenets of law. We have 8 topics that are the core for law school, especially law students. Check those out. They're actual lectures on them. There are video reviews. There are hypotheticals that we do to walk through your cases to see, are you actually ready for the bar? And everyone else, take a look at our merchandise page for some funny legal sayings that you can find on coffee tumblers and on shirts. In the meantime, have a happy 4th, or we hope you've already celebrated a happy 4th once this podcast is dropped. And stay tuned with us because we will be covering each of the week's hottest legal topics, which include the dropping of all of these Supreme Court decisions. We'll catch you next time on the Legal Weekly Wine.